we could just have a moment of silence, please. My father, Albert Curtis, passed away about 3 years ago. And I want to offer to introduce myself. I say yes, I am the senior policy organizer at the ACLU. My name is Anderson Curtis. But more importantly, I'm the son of Albert and Rita Curtis, who made sure I returned to the values that they raised me with. So let's take this moment of silence, not just for my father, but for everyone's loved ones. So, here we are, September 9th, 2025. I believe on the paper you said 14 years? So, August 7th, 2007, I was discharged from Rogalski prison. So that was 18 years ago now. By the grace of God, I now have the return. Which was big. For 20 years, I cycled in and out of Connecticut's prisons, jail 6 times, the longest one being the last sentence of 9 months. And primarily it was due to choices I made in my life. Came from a stable home, great education, but you know, things happen. So I didn't wake up and say I wanted to be mired in addiction, homelessness, incarceration, and racial problems. Right? But that's what happened. And so, it's not that some big light bulb went off or anything. I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired of me. And I was determined that I was not going to leave Rogalski the same way I went in. And by the grace of God, I was able to do a few things since then. Primarily came right out, right to Gateway, but even before that, during my incarceration, I was able to take a college class. Personal finance. Bob Suma from 3 Rivers Community College in New London. I'll never forget him. Taught me 2 valuable lessons. Pay yourself first and opportunity cost. So every opportunity costs you a cost because you give something else up to take that opportunity. One of the things I relish the most, I'm not going to say proud of, I relish the most, is the fact that myself and other advocates were able to close 3 Connecticut prisons due to decreased prison population, overfunding, things of that nature. One of those prisons was Rogalski. And that was a very, very warm feeling. And, you know, before the ACLU, before being a lobbyist at the Capitol, I was just a man trying to make it, no matter what. I didn't want to go back. And so I learned to do new things. I went to workshops run by New Haven Foundation. This lady, Jackie Dowling, she treated me like a human being. And you know, I learned how to accept invitations. One of them was to go to Baltimore to a leadership conference put on by this lady, Grace Bauer. She was a small woman, very powerful. She said all advocacy is healing and movement. Her advocacy started, her son was in a juvenile detention facility in Louisiana, and she noticed that she got preferential treatment because she was white. All the other mothers were black. So her advocacy started, she stayed on the bus last and let the other women go before her. Before she was done, she closed that facility where she was at, where her son was at. And so I sent her the article when Rogalski was closed. Because what? I don't forget where I came from. I don't forget those who helped me along my journey. I'm sorry. Let me move forward. I don't want to miss you guys over here. I can send. So I sent it to her. And you know, you're not really expecting the response you get. At least I wasn't. And she said that came at such a critical time because she was going through some medical issues and she really needed some good news. And you know, I'm so grateful God for the ability to reach back, right? Not just to people formerly incarcerated, but to anyone, right? Kindness is the new superpower. And so in these days and times, it pays to be kind. It pays to take the time out to say hello, give someone a smile, ask them how their day's going. Because you never know what they could be going through. In front of you, there's a picture. I was going to bring the painting, but the office was just a little too far away. So when I got here, I decided to print it out and leave you with the picture. And so I work a lot of events. One of them was the Drug and Alcohol Recovery Counselor Fair. This is where dark students in Gateway meet their internships. And so I went back and I worked the fair with a table and talked to people, hand out buttons and everything. And I met a young lady who was in the program, and she was an artist. Her name was Jill Cook. And I got her number and I contacted her. Because that image has been in my head a long time. And I call that, can you see the path? This is what I looked at when I got out of prison. It's a jungle out there. Where am I going to live? Where am I going to work? What am I going to do? I have this criminal record that's in the back of my head. I can't go get my own apartment. I have to move in with somebody. This is what the record tells me. So I asked Jill, I sent her a picture, and she drew that for me. And, you know, it's a tool to help people see, right? I get paid to live my lifestyle. I'm very blessed. I get paid to be a messenger of hope, right? I help people come discover their truth inside of them. When I ask you to come to the Capitol and testify, it's not about the bill. It's not about the committee. It's about you finding the truth and the strength inside of you and giving voice to that. It's very powerful. Very powerful. So, you know, I'm going to leave my contact information and eventually invite you all to the Capitol. If you'd like to come, I'll walk you around the building and show you, you know, what it's like to be there. But let's get back to today. I was born December 29th, 1962. I will be 63 years old today. I mean, on my birthday. Today, I'm as old as the Voting Rights Act. You know, and when someone said that to me, I didn't really have a pleasant response. It took me a little while to embrace that, right? Just like I got to sit down a little bit more. I was telling my friend here, it takes a lot longer to get out of the house. Yeah, I'm a member of this age group too. Maybe not this one, but yeah, I'm here. So, my point is, given the times that we're in, right? How do you connect to what's inside? How do you shut out the noise of what's outside? How do you trust in uncertain times? Right? And so, yes, I work at the Capitol. Yes, it's about politics. But you know, my presence is really spiritual. Like, I didn't get here on my own. You know, I talked to some students one time, and the kid said, well, what kind of education do you have, Anderson? He said, I thought you had to be a lawyer or a master's degree in political science to be a lobbyist. I said, which education do you want? Do you want the one where I went to Gateway and I graduated, dark student year in 2009? Do you want the one where I learned not to go back to prison? Do you want the one where I stopped arguing with my mother? And when I got out of jail in 2007, I said, Mom, I'm going to do my best to do everything you ask me. I just wish I had listened sooner. All right? Do you want the one that helped me get to the doors at ACLU? Do you want the one that kept me at the table? See, we have a saying, either you're at the table or you're on the menu. And that goes for many things, whether it's the Board of Education, the Housing Committee, the SAGE group, right? Either you're participating or somebody's gonna be dictating to you what you can and can't do. And so, I find myself here today recalling when I first got to the ACLU. And there was a man, Melvin Dina, and he had this chart, and it was connected to a grant, and he goes, oh, I can give you 20 to 25 hours, but you know, depending on what's going on, I may send you home this night. I said, whoa. I said, look, I have responsibilities. I got a household to take care of. Your little chart and your grant, that's nice and everything. But I cannot come up here for less than 25 hours a week. If you can't do that, I can walk away now. Right? When I got out of prison in 2007, I couldn't say that. I didn't know my own value. Sometimes you have to teach people how to value you. I wasn't being rude. I wasn't being a bully. I was telling him the way it was. In order to meet my responsibilities at home, I need at least 25 hours a week to do this. Otherwise, I have to go do something else. And so, being able to say that, boy, that was a learning right there, right? Because now, when you look back, the path, right? I'm at the connection. I am a recovery support specialist. I'm working on a recidivism grant. We're going to get a peer-reviewed journal article paper printed with my name on it, right? I'm the peer mentor for men coming out of prison on parole. They get a case manager and me. So the active people in the study got me, and the control group did. And so I'm supposed to be this bridge. A bridge to where? The case managers didn't respect me. They thought I was another jailbird. The people I had to work with, they didn't really respect me either. Because they thought I was another jailbird. The guy said to me, well, why do we have to follow the rules? You're one of us. I said, you're right. I am one of you. And I'm also one of them. But most importantly, I'm me. I'm not cutting any corners. I'm not taking any shortcuts. This is what the program says. You can't get in my car. Now, we can go to the food bank, grocery store, whatever. I'll wait for you. Take the bus. I'll put the stuff in my car. I'll wait for you at the house. I said, but we're going to comply. And so, you know, it came to me. Compliance, patience, process, success. The guys couldn't deal with the compliance part. Like, hey, how's it going with your parole officer? Oh, do you see him as a barrier or a resource? Right? Because everything that serves you in prison, you have to take it and throw it out the window. The bullying, the manipulation, the coercion. Not going to make it. You have to replace that with honesty, vulnerability, kindness. So, that would be my first question. And if they didn't really want to comply, I didn't really say too much. I had the question that my father would ask me. How's that working out for you? Right? So, you know, you learn. And you help where you can. You help where what? You're invited. This man invited me here today. I gladly showed up. Right? You may not invite me to, I don't know, pluck your roses or whatever, cut your grass, right? I'm not going to just show up at your house to do that, right? I'm going to wait to be invited. It's the same thing in relationships. You know? I have a grandson. He greeted me. He's 18 now. Can't tell me what to do no more. First words out of his mouth. It reminded me of his brother. Brother said to me one day, you can't little boy me anymore. So, 4 grandchildren. I married a lady. She had three sons. The oldest son gave us 3 boys. The youngest son gave us our granddaughter. Right? I have no children of my own. But because I was in a relationship and a woman chose to have an abortion, that created a void. And after that, every woman I met, they all had children. I'm usually closer to the children than the mom. That's just my own personal thing, right? That's why sometimes in the reproductive justice space, I don't know what to say. What do I say? So I remain quiet, right? Because it's not really easy to share that. But I know how to be quiet and still be supportive. I still be in the background for people, helping them out, you know? When at the end of the session, my good friend Liz, reproductive justice advocate, had a very long face, very sad. None of her stuff passed. They butchered it. Her bills, this, that, even her name. And we were sitting in the cafeteria, there's about 8 of us advocates. And you know, I didn't really like the look on her face. I wasn't gonna butter her up with a bunch of kind words, fluffy words, right, that don't mean nothing. So what did I do? I went to another advocate and I said to her, what did you learn this session? Bam. I went around the room. By the time I got to Liz, her face changed. I took those quotes, posted them on LinkedIn, right? The collective learning of advocates, the last day of the Capitol, right? Make a moment. That's what Mel Medina taught me, besides that graph. Make a moment. Take a picture, take the time out, make the people feel appreciated, held, and taken care of in the space. No matter what space that is, right? My favorite part of the Constitution is we are the people. Right? I get excited when I come into a room of people. I love this. I could do this all day long, right? That's my father, very social man, watched him all my life. We're in Tennessee, he's a truck driver, Teamster. And the car broke down, we're driving, my aunt lives in Tennessee, my grandmother's sister. And he starts talking to the mechanic. Next thing I know, he whips out that Teamster card. Oh, come on in. The whole thing changed. And so I marveled at that, right? And you know, he did it in a way where he was genuine. He told you like it was, but he never really downed you. He never really chided you for the mistakes you made. You know, and when he passed away, I have a sister who I wasn't really talking to at the time, and I said that to her. I said, look, we got a new time, we got a fresh start. I said, in honor of Daddy, I'm not gonna hold you to any of that. I hope you can do the same for me. Sometimes we all need a fresh start, right? And so, today, I'm sure we all have challenges, right? Where's the lady at? This lady right here. You said you went to all the protests, right? You have signs at home? I'm sure a few of others do. I know I do, right? Right. So how do we meet the moment, stay true to our values, put our faith into action, and keep moving forward? It's not an easy task, right? So that's just a little bit of what I do. One of my favorite facts about the ACLU is that they helped Muhammad Ali in 1967 in his case against the U.S. government as a conscientious objector, right? Because one of the founding members of the ACLU was what? A conscientious objector in World War I. Come on now. People. It's not about race. It's not about color, even though it is. You know? It's about, do you see the humanity? Do you see my humanity? Even though we may not look alike, we may not have the same lived experience, but guess what? We could treat each other with respect, humanity and dignity. And that's where it all starts. I never leave home without those. When I go into the Capitol, that's my armor. Senator came up to me. I asked him, I said, would you mind sponsoring one of our bills? He says, oh, that bill's coming out of committee? Do you know something I don't? I said, Senator, come on. You know I'm a man of faith. I believe all my bills are coming out of committee. What's he going to say to that? Right? Or the other legislator, when I'm lobbying for a clean slate, which is a bill that gives people the right to have their record expunged, she says to me, are you eligible for clean slate? No, my record is such that I'm not eligible. I have to go for a pardon. Well, maybe you should do that. You know, I got kind of a chip on my shoulder. I don't know what to say. Like, I try to balance it out with the kindness and stuff, but it's there. Like, I'm not going to deny it. So, I couldn't wait to run back with that pardon 2 years later. I kind of wanted to rub it in her face a little bit, to be honest with you. So I said, I got the pardon. She looks at me and she goes, your mother must be so proud. She totally disarmed me, man. I was like, what do I? We're friends to this day. You know what I mean? Because again, it's about the humanity. She saw my humanity. You know? She says, even though we don't agree, I have fun just talking to you. Because of the way we go about it. So, you know, being in that building, I know how to talk to Republicans, Democrats, people from Bridgeport, Norwalk, Coventry, the Quiet Corner, Danielson. It doesn't matter. I'm going to find something. I'm going to look for something. A commonality, somewhere to start, a value. So when I invite you to testify, I don't need you to be an expert on HB 5362. No, I need you to be an expert in your experience. Let's find a value that connects to the bill, and then we could get a whole testimony about it. That was the other thing that the kids said in class. Well, I went to testify, and the person emailed me a script, and they just sent it to me, and I went there all by myself, and I said, whoa. That's not what I'm asking. That's not how I do it. I said, first of all, I'm not going to email you a script. I'm going to have a conversation with you. Find out where we connect. Then I'll show you some of the bills. Then you can take your pick of the bill. We'll take a value. We'll craft the testimony together in your words. And before you even get there, I'm going to introduce you to all the members of the committee, put you in the building. So by the time you go to sit at that table and testify, you feel like you're at home, and it's not the first time the words are coming out of your mouth. And that's what taking care of people in space looks like. Right? That's what helping them unveil their truth, finding their strength. You know, I came here, and I wanted to do that with you guys. Right? And so I love the scripture in Micah 6:8. It says, do justice, love mercy, walk humbly. So I was going to ask someone to read in Hebrew, you know, because the Old Testament's in Hebrew, build a connection, right? So I'm walking up to the building today, and what do I see above my head? Took a picture, right? I said, they already know that. I don't have to tell them that. They already know that. But see, you know, I'm going to share my part, right? That's what I wanted to do. Is when you get to the moment, sometimes those things change. And that's what we call in the business the pivot. Can you pivot? Can you pivot in the conversation? Can you pivot when you're talking to Jason and you see Senator Marks over here? I gotta go, Jason. I know how to move then, right? The legs don't bother me then. So, you know, there's many things to pivot. And this year, as I said, you know, in New Haven, I started doing different things. New Haven Foundation, Community Foundation, and then I got involved with Rothstein Memorial, and I went to this community leadership program. Great program for a year. And some graduates of that launched a consulting business, and they had another retreat called Leading with Listening. And I learned at that time the space between the notes is just as important as the notes. So now 2 years later, they asked us to come back and talk to the current cohort about what you learned. That's what I talked about. I also coupled it with a former supervisor of mine who told me, Anderson, you have to sit down and feel the back of your chair. You're a little impulsive, my friend. I love your energy and your passion, but sometimes you just gotta calm down and feel the back of your chair. So now you put those two things together, the space between the notes and feeling the back of your chair, oh, that creates a whole nother response now. Right? Because now he's not rushing in, he's not like the bull in the china shop, he can see different things coming. I'm talking about myself. Right? And I really, really enjoy that. And you know, life shows up. So, as I said, my father passed away. My mom is 81. She came here from June 19th to June 24th. We got on a plane, flew to Norfolk. She lives in Virginia Beach together. I stayed till July 8th, her birthday. Got on a plane, came back. July 24th, my younger sister, Chloe, 17 years younger than me, calls me, 10 o'clock at night. So I call right back. I gotta answer. It wasn't an accident. Because sometimes our kids have the phone. And you know, our mother wasn't right. She wasn't acting right, she wasn't talking right, and then the next day she came in the house and she was a mess. My mother never goes anywhere a mess. So I said, well, we gotta get her to the hospital. I'm in Connecticut. I'm saying we. So my sister, valiant, brave as she is, she did it. You know, my mother's the mother. We can't tell her what to do. We can mildly suggest it, right? So my sister figured out a way to get her there. Unfortunately, she had a stroke. She's okay, but she was in reasonably good health, right? But again, here comes another opportunity, Anderson, to feel the back of your chair. Right? Oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I talked to her, this, that, you know, talked to my sister, went down there, talked to my job, great benefits, family medical leave, I can go 1 week a month, right? But you know, there's a sense of urgency that comes with that. Time is our greatest resource right now, because we don't have a lot of it. Right? My younger son, Anthony, I taught him a lot about life through movies. And one of them was Safe House. And there's a line in Safe House when Denzel's going to get the ID, and the guy who's making ID to him says, the glass and the wine in that glass, my friend, that's as good as it gets for you. More past than future. Right? And so, that urgency, it was amazing what happened for me with that. Me and my responsibilities at work, we have a community engagement position open in education, right? Several people, including this gentleman right here, called me. Do you still work there? They're hiring for this job. Did you know about that? Yeah, it's no problem. I'm still there. It's okay, right? And so, you know, I was out of the process to the end of the process. They inserted myself, the executive director, and then Rachel Moon, who was a communication assistant. I took her under my wing. We did several things together. Know Your Rights workshops at Eastern. We were community liaison for a community change project with Eastern social work students. I handed that off to her after 5 years. I quietly did that, right? Let her take that over. But, you know, in the interview, we all had set questions. And then I saw this other question on paper. I gotta excited, right? And the question is, when everything feels equally urgent, how do you prioritize what's most urgent and why? So the interview was what, 2 weeks ago, Jason? On Wednesday? I'm still asking that question to myself every day in the mirror. How do I do it? What do I do first? Where do we go? And so, allowing things to come to me now in my life, knowing when to make the move, right? How to talk to my mother, so she doesn't feel like I'm telling her what to do, and she knows that I'm there to support her. I'm going to do all I can to do that. Because when I say to her, I want to be there for you, Mom, well, I want you to be there for yourself. I said, well, I'm not really good at that. I'm getting better. I said, but I know by being there for you, I'm going to be there for me. And so my point is, whatever life may bring you, you're equipped to move forward. You have your faith. God willing, you have some family. You have your heart. Right? The Bible talks about the heart all the time. And so how do you lead with that? Right? How do you take the courage to stand up and say, hey, Mr. Legislator, I'm from West Hartford, and I don't really like the way you voted on that. And more importantly, how are you going to vote on this other issue coming up? Right? Because there's talking about it amongst ourselves, and then there's those effective conversations. Right? Where now your legislator knows your name, they know you're going to be calling, just like the people at the Capitol. Here he comes, good trouble, right in their face, right? And it's not pushy or anything, but I'm not going nowhere. There's people that don't have the opportunity to come to the Capitol and get to live that out. I'm there for them. I'm there for the guy who just came out of the halfway house. I met this lady, Ruth Wilson Gilmore. I know I'm all over the place. I'm sorry about that, but I'm just trying to speak from the heart. I don't really like preparing things. And Ruth Wilson Gilmore founded Critical Resistance with Angela Davis. She came to speak at Yale. And I was fascinated by her. I saw her one as a picture. I was sitting in the front row, wrote down everything she said. So I tell my mother, and come to find out, my mother knows her. My god sister is her niece. So my god sister's father is Cortland Wilson, right? Which there's a library named Cortland after Cortland Wilson. I said to my mother, what did he do? What did he do to get the library? It wasn't named after him, it was named after their father. So Cortland Wilson is Ruth Wilson Gilmore's brother. Their brother and sister. And so I sent her an email, told her who I was. She sent it back. I'm practically your auntie, right? It's so nice, you know what I mean? But again, what she taught me, you say you're an advocate? Are you really? Are you an abolitionist? Do you want to tear it down? Or do you want to go for incremental change? Because in order to tear it down, you have to go through incremental change. Right? You can't have that burn it down attitude. That's not going to work. It's not going to be effective. You could be right, but you won't be effective. And so she said, because real activists, everything they do is to help the people still behind the wall. And I never let that out of my mind. So when I go into the halfway house to register men to vote, I have that in my mind. When a guy comes up to me and says to me, well, what are you getting out of this? Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. I get to see you exercise a right that wasn't on the table a year ago. Because me and my friends, that building with the gold dome? We were over there working our butts off to get this law passed so that people on parole like yourself can now vote. That's what I get out of it. He wasn't expecting that. He was talking about the money. All right. Sometimes they ask you questions in interviews. Will you work for free? I already did that. I need to be compensated now. I already did that. So my point is, when you want to be effective, sometimes you have to put aside your bias, sometimes in order for me to be effective, I have to learn how to put aside my bias, feel the back of my chair, check in with myself before the conversation, before entering this room. I told this gentleman today, I was here early. I was across the street on a bench in the shade for half an hour. I don't like to come anywhere flustered. Right? I want to be calm. I don't want anything in the way. When I come to meet you, they say in counseling, tabula rasa, blank slate. Right? I got no preconceived notions, no biases, none of that. Who's in front of me? Let's get to know each other. And so, all this time, 18 years, 7 years at the ACLU, 4 grandkids, the youngest one's now 14, the oldest one's 22. I'm 62, going on 63, my mother's 81. What do I want to do? And by the grace of God, I'm doing it. I get to share my experience, strength, and hope. I get to share my faith. I get to share my testimony. How to overcome. Right? How to make a difference. Because we all matter. Don't let nobody tell you that you don't. We all matter. And we all have a voice. We all have a heart. How do we connect those two to make a change? Because right now, everything that we care about and we hold dear, it's on the chopping block. They want to take it. I don't know where they want to send us to, but, it took me a little while to get here. I'm ready. One of the things I learned when I got out of jail was, what can I keep today? Can I keep my joy? Can I keep my smile? Can I keep my pride? Can I keep my respect? And these are very, very challenging times. But the ACLU has trained me as a professional to be ready. Before the election, we had meetings, contingency meetings. I got a big mouth. I like to pop off. Doesn't matter who's going to be president. I'm still going to be black. But I'm going to shut up and listen to what you have to say, because I don't know everything. I'm going to be a professional. They taught me the contingency plan. Guess where it showed up? Silent Hill Congregational Church, where I've been a member for the past 5 years. I'm a proud deacon there. Right after the Sunday after the election, one of my good friends goes flying out of the sanctuary in tears. She's running to her car. Hold it a minute. I talked to her for a while. I said, look, it's your turn. I know how you feel. You don't know this, you don't know that. It's uncertain. I said, this is where the faith comes in. This is where you lean on us. I said, I know you were trying to get away, but I got to slow you down for a minute. Let's get a cup of coffee. I said, you may not know what's coming, just like we don't know what's around that corner. We can't see around that corner, but we know the one who does. It's time to lean into your faith now. She thanked me. Or the pastor's mother, Linda, who I'm very good friend with. She's my mother now. My mother met Linda. Linda cooked lunch for me and my mother, me, Erica, and Linda. Erica Thompson's the pastor of Silent Hill. And I said to Linda, I called you Wednesday. I was going to come cut the grass, give you some free labor. And she was down. She just looked at me and buried her head in my chest, crying. I let that go on for 3 minutes. I said to her, well, I guess I don't have to cut the grass. I guess I just got to be a big cuddly teddy bear for you. She smiled. Again, I was able to meet the moment, because I didn't know that was going to happen, but I knew something was going to happen after this man was elected, because of what the ACLU trained me to do. Right? Be prepared. Contingency plan. Right? Preparation, preparation, preparation. When we go to speak for the committee, it's not the first time those words are coming out of our mouth. When we bring anyone into that building, it's not just about what they're going to do for us, it's what we can do for them. We are your platform. We have translated that not only to people, but all the organizations. been intentional over the past few years about being supportive in other organizations, not coming into the space and trying to take over. All right? Key example, a gentleman was killed in Bridgeport by a police officer. Dave, we gotta respond. I made a few calls in Bridgeport, this and that. Some other people made some calls. Yeah, we have to respond, but guess what? We have to respond with the wishes of the family, because they get to lead on the issue. Right? You don't want to go stomping on somebody. No. They don't want no less of us. That's what they get. Right? They get people to show up and just quietly support. Right? So again, being able to feel the back of our chairs collectively, make a decision not based on what's based for the ACLU, what's best for the community. Community and people. They drive everything. Our bills, the licensing bill, the clean slate bill, those all came out of the pain of people living a criminal record. I myself, right? 2 years at the ACLU, resources, job, this, that, no apartment. Why? Because I don't believe I deserve one. Unfortunately, I'm a little scarred by that incarceration. My self-esteem is not as best. All right? So even though I can go get an apartment, I don't really know how. It wasn't until I started my pardon process that they told me the pardon application has to match your license. Really? That hasn't been true since I left my mother's house in 1998. So how am I going to get that done in the middle of COVID? Guess who came to visit? My mother. I ran to Hartford, got an apartment application, and that's where I started. 2 months later, I got another part-time job. I worked at Imacare Shelter on the weekends, saved up the money for the deposit. I moved out of New Haven in November. Like I said, this was during COVID. A colleague of mine had rented a studio on Laurel Street. She let me sublet for 2 months. I moved into Garden Street in January. It wasn't until I did that I was actually able to start the pardon application. Because I had to clean up all that in order for me to have space in my head to do the pardon application, which I had bought my criminal history 2 other times, but because the pain of what I did, to my sister, Audrey. I see the criminal history. I don't see the charges. I hear her crying. Why does he have to steal my stuff? I live with my sister and my niece and nephew. All right? I'm not happy to say that, but that's why I couldn't do the pardon application. So I actually had to go. God is good. He sent me this lady on Messenger. Healers work in darkness. What does that mean? So she tells me, she invites me to Martha's Vineyard. Are you sure? I said, because there's no way to get off that island once I get there. I said, I told my mother and father I'm coming to see you. She said, I said, yeah, they know I'm going. I said, in case I don't make it back. I said, are you sure? She said, yeah. So I get there. She arranged an art therapy for me the next day. And I had to draw out what the apology looked like. So by the time I got on the phone with my sister, it was like she saw that. We were on the phone for my father's birthday. And it's like she just greeted me. You know what I mean? And, I realized then that the apology was also to me. I had to forgive myself. Right? And so in this process of advocacy, lobbying, forgiveness, healing, making a difference, helping other people stand up for their truth, standing up for righteousness. There's a lot that goes on. There's a lot that goes on inside of here, right? And to reconcile that and be able to come in and make it about everybody but me. That's my job. But when I go home, I'm learning to make it more about me. Right? So I can continue to take care of myself, to take care of my responsibilities, my job, my mother, right? My friends, my friend right here, Jason, his wife, Jennifer, right? Because in order for me to be there for them, I gotta be there for Anderson. Now, I didn't really talk about the politics a lot, because when I go to Capitol, I don't really talk about the politics. I'll talk to a legislator for the whole session, just to get to the end, so I can say, are you standing in my way? Where are you at in this bill? I purposely don't do that, right? Because I want to get to know them. I found out one of the representatives, Republican, had cancer. He had lost some weight. I went over to him, I said, hey, how you doing? I said, I want to get to know you a little bit better. We got to go out to dinner. He looked at me. I said, yeah, let's do that sometime. He said, okay, no problem, Anderson. Or the young legislator from Meriden. How'd you get past me? You were here all year last year. I never talked to you. He said, oh, I wasn't vice chair this year. I said, I don't care what committee you're on. I want to get to know you. Right? Or we're sitting in a hearing, and I look up at the legislators. Boom, the new mayor from Stanford. How come I don't know him? Texted my people right in the meeting. Now we're standing outside. Who walks over to us? The new mayor from Stanford. Hey, I was just talking about you. How you doing, Anderson Curtis? Because what, we have an office in Stanford. So there's working the building, and then there's going to do in-district things with legislators in the community. My favorite part, right? And then there's coming to events like this, right? Where it doesn't have to be about all that. It could just be about we're people who care and we want to make a difference. And together we matter. And that's my message. So I'm gonna leave my contact information. I don't know how long I talk. How long did I talk?
50 minutes. That's good.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's do some Q&A. I'm gonna shut up now. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for.
Good time. Good time. Good time.
We have time for questions.